Hey guys, my name is Yazan, and today I'm gonna be working on a personal project. Uh, my boat, it's a 2007 Bayliner 175. The thing got an exhaust leak. It's very loud. It's unbearable, and I diagnosed it to have a exhaust manifold, well, intake exhaust manifold gasket leak. We're gonna have to take that out and see what's going on. Now, I've never worked on boats, or I've done very little work on boats, but I've been working on cars for the last 15 years, and we have a shop here in Orlando fixing cars. Pretty similar, but some things are different, like the fact that it has an intake exhaust manifold, which I've never heard of until a few days ago when I was diagnosing this boat, trying to find the hot side and the cold side. It turns out they're both on the same side, right next to each other. So I'm going to be following along with the service manual that is free and available for everybody to download and read through. And I'm going to be showing step by step to remove the intake exhaust manifold and to test it and change the gasket, which I don't have yet, but we'll do this in phases, one at a time. Alright guys, so here's what we have: a 2007 Bayliner 175 with a 3.0 Mercruiser. Now I know the upholstery is pretty bad. We're going to be doing some work on that as well. But there's the engine. It is running okay, but it has a big leak here, exhaust leak right from the exhaust manifold. So we're gonna start working on tearing that down. And here's my tools that I'm gonna be using for that job. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so the first step is to pull up the manual. And all I did over here is type in 3.0 Mercruiser service manual. This engine is the same from 1990 and up. And you will see from the first couple of results, you'll find the service manual right there. I'm gonna click and go ahead and open it up. So if we look in the manual guide, we will see that exhaust system is in section number 7. I'm gonna go ahead and scroll all the way down to that. Alright, so now we're gonna look at removal. Disconnect battery cable, drain water from cylinder block and exhaust manifold and exhaust elbow. Alright, let's see. Like I said, by no means I am a boat mechanic, but we do a lot of work on cars. Instead of disconnecting the battery, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off the breaker, which is already turned off, as you can see. And then we're gonna go to draining that water. Now, if I make mistakes, please be nice and just tell me that I made a mistake nicely instead of beating me up. But here we have the block drain and exhaust manifold drain, and I believe we just have to push it in and pull it right out and then put it down. It looks like there is no water in it. Do the same thing there. Okay, so there is some water. We're gonna put it below the level. So what it says in the manual, when you're draining these, gotta put it below the level of where they connect, which only makes sense, physics. So right now it is draining, and I will be back for the next step. Alright, so now while the water is still draining from the manifold and the block, we're gonna follow the manual onto the next step. And it says disconnect throttle cable at carburetor. Okay, so we'll go ahead and look for that, and you will see it right here. I'm gonna take out these bolts, and if it doesn't get out of the way easily, I will take out the back one, but I believe it will just swivel up and leave it right there. So I will go ahead and grab my wrench, 10 millimeter, I believe, and we are going to crack open the outer and the inner nut, I guess, together. I thought they were locked, but it's no big deal. So we just go ahead and loosen these out. Easy enough. There's one, and there is the second one. The throttle cable should pull right out of this and swivel up just like I thought. We'll remove the air cleaner and the PCV hose from here, put that aside, and now we have disconnected the throttle cable. We'll look at the next step, and this would be disconnect exhaust hose and cooling hoses. All right. So let's see, what do they mean by exhaust hose and cooling hoses? They're referring to everything that's connected to the manifold. So I'm assuming I'm gonna have to remove this hose, and I believe that's what they're referring to as the exhaust hose, but I know this is called the riser. So we'll see what I have to do. I'm gonna find a place to set up this phone, and I'll be back. Alright, so the best way I found to set up this camera is by using the front-facing camera. So everything is going to be going in the opposite direction for you, don't worry. It's because it's kind of like a mirror. So what I grabbed from my toolbox is a little 8mm for those hose clamps, and a peg to help removing the hoses, and a flathead in case the hose clamp is not an 8. So I'm going to start by the one I pointed out here in the front of the engine. Let's see if we can get some more exposure. So let's see. I give it a tug, and sure enough it's not coming out. So let me show you the trick with stubborn hoses. And get in with the pick, get in behind it like that, and work it around as much as we can, and that should break up the corrosion and get this hose to come off easier. Now I'm gonna place the phone back and use both hands. I'm gonna remove this thing. The same thing, the bottom side. Gotta put in some effort into these. Really good at come off. That's coming. There you go. And there it goes. There's first thing. Set it aside. And now looks like there's some wires in the way. I'll go ahead and pull them off to get them out of the way. Hopefully we can remember which one where. So I'm just gonna note it down with the video. Brown with blue line went to this red one, and the white one went on the right. Okay. Connector, disconnect, and this rest of it goes to the power steering reservoir, which I will also disconnect. Now I don't think the polarity matters here, as this is probably just a level sensor that reads resistance. So we will just go ahead and remove it, but just in case, I'm gonna grab a marker and mark this wire here. Let's see. this unlock. And then we can disconnect them, knowing we'll be able to put them back the same way. Alright, there's one coolant hose, and I'll probably remove this one just to give myself some extra room. So the next one, I'm gonna that hose, because it just seems like it's gonna be in the way, or maybe not, but just to get more space here for the riser, it's just gonna go ahead and remove this hose here. Oh, there you go. Nice and crusty. So I'm gonna get this wiring out of the way. We got two more wires here, which go to it goes somewhere back there, to some sort of throttle position sensor. I am not 100% sure what these wires are, but same deal. Mark 1, but then the yellow marker, so you know how everything goes back. I'll go ahead and pull that wire off. And we will disconnect the idle air control valve, which has an odd connector. Oh. Well, idle air control valve has the connector back in front of it instead of the sides. This is what we're dealing with. I was trying to disconnect it here, just like how cars usually are, but instead the connector is right here, right? This one. Alright, disconnect the idle air control valve. And we'll work this harness along with the wire for it out. Now there's this hose right here, which I'm gonna disconnect as well. The hose goes from the mechanical fuel pump on the side to the side of the throttle body right here. Shouldn't be hard to find. You'll see it in the way. So we remove that and we start working the harness along with the hose out of the way so we can continue working. So that's the line that I disconnected of the carburetor, and if you want to find those hoses, they are going to be right down here on the bottom of the manifold. So that would be the rest of the cooling hoses along with the two that I removed from here. So I'm gonna reach in my hand, and there's a clip just like with the drain. Looks just like that. When you press it in, you can just pull the hose out, and that's the same way down here. So I will go ahead and start pulling them out. That's one. Left one to the left nipple, and top one is supply or whatever, however this thing flows. Well, we'll remove that top one, which you can see is connected to this down here. Alright, remove the last one, and this whole assembly just comes right off. Alright, now I believe I have removed all the cooling hoses off the exhaust manifold. I don't think there's anything left, any more coolant hoses left, so we'll move on to the next step in the manual, which will be disconnect fuel line at carburetor. And this is going to be the fuel line here. Now these lines, this type of fitting, you got to be careful with. You absolutely need to hold it while breaking it loose. And this just looks completely rounded. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that. So let me gather some tools and see how we're going to break that one loose. Alright, so as you guys can see, this fuel line nut over here is completely rounded. I'm not sure how I'm gonna deal with that yet, but a good idea is to get this thing out of the way, which we have to eventually do according to the manual, but I'm just gonna do that first so I can get some grip on the fuel line since this is in the way. And I just checked what those bolts are. They are 14 millimeter, one bolt or nut, and another one right back here. So I will go ahead and do this one-handed so I could show you where this one is. And we do need to switch. So this is a 14 millimeter bolt. And let's see. Pretty tight, but nothing crazy. And this one is loose. Now I'm trying to get to the other one, but there's this thing in the way, which is part of the reservoir. Get that reservoir out of the way. It looks like they just have a little belt for it. Use my pick again. Might not be the best tool, but let's see if we could get that out. Oh, almost. Oh, God. No problem. We'll go in a different direction this time. And there goes that belt. Get that reservoir out of the way. Put it on the side, somewhere where it won't spill over all over everything. So I'm working it out of those cooling lines. Try to keep it upright, which is going to be hard, but it's doable. So I'll try to keep this one upright right here. Not a bad spot. Okay. Now got better access to get that bolt. Alright. Sometimes the swivel is a little annoying, but go ahead and get it on. Might need my second hand for that, so I have to set you guys aside one more time. That one was tight. Not too bad. Now we will remove that power steering reservoir holder bracket and the drain, block drain, or whatever this bracket is. And this bolt is getting tight again. Don't you guys hate it when a bolt breaks completely loose and you think it's good by hand, and then it's good for a few turns, and after that it's tight again all on its own? It's probably just some dirt and rust on threads that make it get hard again. So to deal with remembering what goes where, I usually put the bolts back where they came out in cars, and this is no exception. This is kind of the same way. It's like a car with a propeller. Alright. Now, unfortunately, I can't do that method. I would usually just grab the bolt and put it back where I removed it. But the problem here is that this bolt is kind of hard to, well, I can't put it back because these are the studs holding the manifold. So I know these 14mm bolts are for these studs. It's going to be the same thing back there, except there's a lot of rust. So we'll just put these things on the side here. Alright, step. Let's see. Disconnect fuel line. Oh, yeah, we haven't done that yet. So now there is no running away from that. I will have to disconnect this. Might use some vice grip, which I'm normally against, but you can see this is just round, completely round. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the do. Nothing we can do. That's crazy. Guys, you can see the fuel squirting. Alright, so we'll deal with that. I'm gonna get some tools and I'll be right back. Alright, let's see if we can do this. I've had bad experience trying to break a fuel line off on a boat where the big nut just started leaking instead of the line coming up. So I'm not going to be too rough with this. I want to be safe. If anything, I'll just remove the whole carburetor and keep the line on it, just so we don't have to fix a new problem, create a new problem and then have to fix it. I'm using an adjustable wrench because I don't want to go back in the workshop and find a suitable tool. And I'm going to use the vice grip because it's not any of the sizes, it's just completely rounded up. So let's see how well this will work. Gotta be pretty tight if we want to have any chances. Probably a little more than this. Alright, there it goes. Oh, wow, that was easier than I thought. Now the problem we're facing is that it's turning all together with the line. So I want to hold the line and try to spin them up. Good shit though. That's great. Never had good luck with that. So you just go ahead. Remove that fuel line. Now be careful, there might be some pressure built up, but since I was just playing with the throttle, kind of relieved all the pressure. So go ahead and continue removing that line. There it goes. Now you do want to cap this line with something just so no dirt gets into it. Now that we have disconnected the fuel line, we are going to look at the manual again, which I'm pretty sure it's all self-explanatory at this point, because you don't know for a lot of these things, but it definitely helps if you don't know what you're doing now. I don't know what I'm doing with this boat, but it's very similar to cars, which I do know what I'm doing on cars. Next step would probably be removing this big old, they call it riser, since in boats exhaust mixes with water, but not at this point, somewhere downstream from that point where it starts mixing. Let's look back at the manual, and we have disconnect crankcase ventilation hose at rocker arm cover, disconnect wires connected to the electric choke, and remove exhaust manifold fasteners, remove exhaust manifold, remove exhaust elbow. Now from what I'm seeing, that alternator bracket is mounted to the intake exhaust manifold. So that's one. And then I probably would have to remove these two bolts, or how many bolts is it? It looks like this thing is secured with, yeah, just the two bolts. That's one. And that's two, if you can see it right here. Okay. I think that would be my next step before removing the whole exhaust manifold out of place. So I'll crack these two bolts loose and probably these two clamps, try to remove that piece. The bolt is another 14. So let's see. Not too bad. I really expected these bolts on the boat to be a lot harder to break loose, but they're actually not bad at all. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that one. I'm running out of space, so probably should just remove that extension. Just thread it on there. Alright, this is loose. There's one. And get this. Let's see, hopefully it's not too tight. Not bad. That's my favorite sound. The sound of a bolt breaking loose, but not breaking. Alright, this bolt is off. I'm assuming it's going to be hard to separate this because it looks like there was some RTV used there. And since I have the 14, let's see if it's also the size for this bracket right here, which I'm going to remove from here. And it looks like they did use a 14 here as well, which is odd for an American manufacturer. As far as I understand, this has to do with GM, and on cars you don't find a lot of 14mm bolts on GM. It's usually 13 or 15 because they use standard. Okay, and that's how to hit your finger against this. Just be careful. Which is great. Move it the rest of the way. Uh-oh. I'm glad it's not a car, because this would have been down in the gutters. Can't find it. Make a mental note. Short little bolt for the bracket over here. Put it with the parts. Okay, we will go down to these guys down here. Alright, use the flathead screwdriver, my least favorite tool to get these clamps out because it always slides out. Alright, I don't know if they're loose enough. Let's see. One-handed. Wow, that is bad. That does not look good here. So I am noticing that this is not going to happen one-handed. Looks like it's not happening. So I might just keep that one connected and just remove the manifold right from underneath it. This is proving to be hard. It just won't budge. It won't go anywhere. Looks like it just goes down there. So instead of getting hung up on this, we are going to continue removing the rest of the intake manifold bolts, and we're very close to removing that intake exhaust manifold. What do we have left? We have one more here, we got one more there, and we got one more right down there. So those would be the last few bolts, and we should start seeing this manifold come apart, unless there's another bracket back here, which I think there is. That is, it's the ear where you hold the engine, is connected to the intake exhaust. Oh, looks like it's only connected to it, so you won't have to remove that bolt back here because it's not connected to anything else. Alright, let's see. Someone really put some RTV in here. Okay, let's remove those bolts. 1, 2, 3. That's the one I'm worried about. Now, being that one is rusted, you want to be very careful with it. Socket goes in on the way. It's okay. Wow, this boat is being very nice to me. Nicer than most cars we work on. Alright, knot came out. Still stuck in there. Gotta get that out later. But at this point, I believe I am ready to go ahead and pull this whole thing off out of it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it's coming. I don't see any obstructions. Now here we are. It is pretty much off, and this gasket is disgusting. That's what it was leaking right here, right from there, and from there where the gasket is blown out. So now the only thing that's in the way is this exhaust riser, whatever they call it. So I'm gonna wanna push it back out of the way and then get my manifold out. But of course this is not a one-hand type thing, so it seems heavy, so don't be surprised by how heavy that is. Oh god, this is heavy. There he is. Intake exhaust manifold on a 3.0 Mercruiser. Such a beefy part. That is a beefy part. Go ahead and put that aside. Oh god. Let's see how this looks. There we go. The studs, 3 of them. Then we have this riser that I couldn't completely remove, but it's fine. There's the gasket for that. Let's see how this gasket looks. Oh no, looks like this is falling apart, which is not a good sign. But let me tear that gasket out. Wow, this is pretty well cooked. Alright, we'll put this out of the way back here. It does not want to stay out of the way, but let's take a look at this interesting setup here. We got exhaust and intake at the same time. This is it. I might make a video on testing this thing, but I found one online and they probably did a better job than I can do. They tested it with pressure. I have to put some block off plate or whatever, but there is no videos on how to remove it inside the boat rather than on an engine stand. But it's not too bad. That was pretty easy. I think it took a total of maybe 1 hour and it came right off. So we will look further into it on the bench and possibly make a video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.